For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Breathing. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Breathing.
Thank you very much, Larson, for the 500th time. 500th time. Mr. Scott Larson, I should give a shout out because he was our announcer on the Top 40 music show, Top of the Charts, which basically kind of launched my radio career and then turned into, well, I mean, I was a best-selling author and then newspaper columnist and then podcast host, and Scott has been there for every one of our Top of the Charts shows. I mean, he's on tape, so I'm not saying that he's like, here in the building, but every one of those introductions, whether I wrote it, one of our writers wrote it, or he came up with something, like we would give him the words and he just comes up with the sounds and he just, that's his thing. And so I've worked with Scott for, I'm trying to think. So Top of the Charts ended 18 years ago. So I would say 19, almost 20 years, Scott Larson has been the voice of our projects, our audio projects anyway. So I'm going to have to send him a message. This is great. I don't see him. Because we don't do the radio shows anymore, we're not having him, produce sounders or anything like that. So, but I do keep in touch every once in a while. So I'll have to give Scott a reminder and say, Scott, can you believe it's 10 years? This is the 500th episode of that frickin' podcast. But 10 years ago, how many people were listening to podcasts? Were you? I don't know that you were. Don't know that you were. Were you listening to mine? Definitely not. But anyway, so here we are, 500 episodes into this podcast, and my team, again, with whom I've worked for nearly 20 years, my team had said, well, like, what should we do? Because on Top of the Charts, on the radio shows, we would always do, we would have celebrity guests, or we would do the show from somewhere, right? We would do it from Mexico, or we'd go big, we'd go all out. And I downplayed it. I said, I'm too old for this shit. Okay, I don't. So here's what I'm going to do. So for the next 30 minutes, or I guess 27 minutes now going forward, I'm going to kind of take a walk down memory lane. I'm going to give advice to fellow podcasters. I'm going to tell you some of my experiences, because as much as people go and think that, or people say that podcasting is like this new concept, it's really kind of just talk radio. And people will go and say, well, no, what about like these storytelling, like these crime podcasts, whatever. Yeah, that was called radio back in the day. That was called radio. You might have had radio plays. They were actual, reading it. You'd gather around the radio on Sunday night. You'd listen to a radio play because you didn't have TV at the time. But yeah, so podcast is not a new concept. It's talk radio, or it's, these radio plays that they used to be called. Podcasting is nothing new. Now, the way that it's transmitted, right? The way that you hear it, the way that you get it, the way that you, take it in is different, right? Radio, you'd flip on a switch and listen to a radio station. Podcast, but the concept of it is not new. It's not new. It's not. So it's in one breath, I'm kind of happy that, oh my God, so many people have embraced talk radio. That was kind of my passion when I was, in my teenage years and my early 20s. I wanted to be on the radio. And now everybody looks at radio and is like, oh, it's fucking radio. Oh my God. Yeah, you're doing radio. It's just not called radio anymore. And it's just picked up in a different way. But you're doing radio. You're doing talk radio. So for the next, now what are we at here? 26 minutes, will be sharing my memories, my thoughts, my suggestions, my advice. Now people will go and say, well, look at Joe Rogan, whatever. Like, who needs your advice? I'm going to listen to him. I know he knows what he's doing. Yeah, but I can help you. Because at the end of the day, not everybody, that's just like somebody who loves playing a sport. You're not all going to make it as a professional athlete. Let's be honest, right? Just because you have a podcast or you had an idea for something and you have a lot of friends and maybe you have a big audience on social media and they all listen to your first episode because they're going to support you and they're going to go, rah, rah, pat you on the back. Good job, good job. Are they listening to the second one? Are they listening to the third one? Are they listening to the fourth one? I'll tell you why I asked that coming up on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble, episode 500. So you've got this great idea. I'm going to host this podcast. It's going to be about, I'm going to have my friends on. We're going to talk about video games. We're going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about how we love reality shows. We're going to talk about wine because we love wine. Okay, great. Your first episode, audience, downloads, listenership, whatever word you want to use, through the roof. Through the roof. Everybody and their dog and their babysitter and their whoever listen to that first podcast. Yes, I'm a success. No, you're not. Here's the thing. Now, when I wrote a book, my first, I threw my pen. Hold on, let me go under my desk to retrieve the pen I just threw. When I wrote my first book years ago, I had the same kind of thing happen, okay? I wrote the book. Everybody was excited. Everybody had told me to write a book. They knew I was a writer. I'd never done anything long form like that. So I go and I write the book. And wouldn't you know it? Everybody bought the book. Everybody bought the book. Everybody. There were even 2 or 3 copies in some households of my family and friends because, my cousin bought it, her husband bought it. My friend bought it, her husband bought it. Everybody bought that first book. Everybody. So, 2 years later, or maybe a year and a half later, you put out another book because you had such great success with that one. Everybody came to the book signing. Everybody bought the book. Second book? Nope. Maybe about half of those people buy the second book. Guess what happens when you put out the third book? Guess. I'll give you a moment. Guess what happens for the third book? Half of that half buys the next book. Book number 4, what do you think? Those loyal supporters, right? Those supporters that were cheering you on. They loved they came to the book signing, they came to the reading, they heard you read. Of course. Book 4? No. Now, hopefully by that point you've developed a following or a fan base or whatever of outsiders, right? Not the people that are close to you. Because you've probably had somebody in your life who they will maybe sell. What are some of it was Avon back in the day. I don't even know what it is now. I can't even think. There's cleaning supplies, there's cooking, there's seasonings, there's household products, there's whatever. And it's almost like that pyramid scheme, right? So, that you buy it from them, they get a kickback, and then the person who signed them up gets a kickback. And we've had a few people in our family do that, and I don't really consider that to be a business. But what I'm saying is they're banking on those family and friends to buy. So they'll buy the first time. I'll buy the dish rags or the, whatever it is the first time. But you're going to come around a second time and I'll go and say, you know what? I didn't even use the first stuff that I bought. So I'm good for now. And they might come back to you again, right? Another like, oh, are you ready to order again? No, I think that's it. I've always found that to be slimy. And this is absolutely true, by the way. Absolutely true. That if you ask anybody in my circle, family, friends, coworkers, whoever, I have never directly asked somebody to buy my book. Ever. Because I don't like being put in that situation. I don't like when my nephew comes up to me at the family get-together and says, will you buy chocolates for my school? Oh, I didn't come here with money. I don't come to a family get-together with money. I'm not expecting to spend, at Christmas while I'm having Thanksgiving dinner, while I'm, shooting the breeze with everybody at Easter. I didn't bring cash. Sorry. So now they don't even ask me. Maybe I'm an asshole like that. But I just feel like, I don't, it's not my thing. I don't ask. If you want to ask me where you can get it, or if you want to ask me if you can buy it, I'll gladly, but I'm not coming to you and saying, oh, hey, I wrote a new book. Did you want to buy a copy? Never. I just, that's just, I don't like doing that. So, that same thing happens with business too. I've talked with many people who have kind of started their own little like e-commerce store, whatever it is, and same deal. Everybody on social media congratulates you, encourages you, and will maybe order that one time to kind of get things rolling or to kind of give you that push. But then where are they? I had one friend who she started a fashion kind of concept even. She didn't even really kind of have everything all launched yet. And she kind of makes this big announcement. She posts the logo, kind of teases everybody, and everybody's, congratulating her. Then she launches. She was doing drop shipping. That's where you don't actually have the product. It's somebody else's. And you just you're the third party, you kind of just market it and then you sell somebody else's product, but you pass it off as your own. So that's kind of what she was doing. But like I said, everybody was encouraging her. Good for you. Oh my God, that's so exciting. That's amazing. Whatever. She was losing her mind. Because when it came down to it, when the store opened, when the e-commerce store opened, when the cash register was lit and plugged in and ready to roll, 0 orders. 0. So it's one thing to pat them on the back and say, oh, way to go. Yeah, show me the money. That's how you can show me the fucking money. So how does that relate to a podcast? Well, let me get into that. So it's going to be the same kind of a thing, right? People will listen to it because they know you, whatever, they'll like you, but will they have that loyalty to you? Because here's the thing is that if it's people that you talk to with all the time and your podcast is basically doing something like this, where you're having this opinion and sharing your comments, well, you already do that with your friends. So why would they have to tune in if you're already doing something like that? So that's my one suggestion is don't rely on your very, very personal contacts. Of course, on your social media page, you have people that you've never met before from around the world, whoever it is. Okay, fine. Those are the people you want to target. And I'm not saying that like a podcast is different because just, you're subscribing, you're not necessarily having to pay money and hand over, buying a product. So a podcast is different than an e-commerce transaction. I get it. But what I'm saying is, don't rely on your inner circle of friends and family to then go and promote it for you, to then go and post the link on their page and share it with their audiences, because that's where that friend, she was getting pissed because nobody was basically like free advertising for her. And I kind of thought, well, that's sort of on you though. Like that's not really kind of up. That would be like me freaking out on my mom and going, you didn't post it on your Facebook page, Mom? Why didn't you post my book signing on your... That's not her problem. That's not up to her. It's not. So with a podcast, don't focus on your energy to like your inner circle. Maybe they'll be your support system and encourage you along the way, but I just do it something independent of that. Now, secondly, then to that in that realm or whatever is plan it well. So I gave you the example already of like, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to have this. Okay. So let's say that it's something about wine or it's about reality shows or whatever. I treat it, because I've produced radio for so many years, I treat it as an actual broadcast. So when we started to do Top of the Charts, the Top 40 music show, it's 2 hours. Okay, great. What are we doing? What are we doing in that 2 hours? So we're going to have music, of course, because it's Top 40. How many times am I coming on? What things am I talking about? Are we talking current events? Are we talking politics? Are we talking celebrity news? Are we am I interacting with a producer? Do I have a co-host? Do I have celebrity guests? Are they coming in the studio or is it on the phone? Yes, things are going to evolve with time, but you kind of have to have an outline as to what you're going to be doing. So that was when I kind of sat down and said, all right, I've got 2 hours. So we've got to have a certain amount of songs and a certain amount of musical content. I get it. And then what? And I started to map it out. And I said, okay, I'll have 8 talking segments. I called them breaks. I'm going to have 8 breaks. The intro will be the number 1. The second one will kind of be, okay, welcome to the show. We're 15 minutes in. Here's what we're going to do. Then there's another music set. Then we have a commercial break, and I come on for a minute and a half after that commercial break. And I'll welcome everybody back because they haven't heard me in a while and they just sat and listened to commercials. So now I'll kind of recap what's coming up in the show. This is what we're going to do. Hey, we've got a celebrity guest joining us in the next hour. Stick around for that. So if you have this idea for a podcast, and one of my friends did, he married a Filipino woman, and he realized the struggle that she had when she moved to Canada and thought that he could put together a show for other Filipinos who are going to be coming to Canada. So that could be, where's a good place to find housing? What do you need to know about the culture in Canada? The climate? Like so many different things. And I said, okay, that's a great idea. Map out the first 6 episodes for me. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, or maybe you'll come back to me in a few days with your 6 episodes. But tell me right now, give me the first 6. And he couldn't. Through the course of conversation, like I just said about climate, whatever, that was through me kind of tossing out ideas once he said it to me. But I said, okay, if you can't give me 6, you're already hitting a wall. Because at that point, you don't have the momentum, you don't have the steam. Sure, some of the ideas might come from those other episodes that you tape, but you've got to have a well thought out idea. If it's just going to be, okay, I'm going to sit with my best friend in our room and we're just going to talk. Okay, that might work for 13-year-olds and a 13-year-old audience. But for, right? Like what are you going to do? You got to come up with something. So we had, for our first 6 episodes of the podcast, because I'd been on the radio for many years, we had like a stacked lineup of those first 6 episodes. We came out of the gate just raring to go. I think we had Jeff Probst, Phil Kogan, Kevin O'Leary, and Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. I think we had like 4 celebrity guests in that first 30 minutes because it was like these were segments from our radio shows. We can come in star power like to the 9s. That was how we launched, was 4 celebrity guests in that first episode. We've set the bar, we've set the tone. Because again, we were doing celebrity guests every week on the radio show. So we had a bank of celebrity interviews that we could draw on. So if we didn't have a celebrity guest specifically for the podcast that week, not a problem. We can repurpose an interview from the radio shows. So we had 6 stellar episodes ready to go. That's how we either went to advertisers or, podcast networks at the time. Again, 10 years ago, it was a little bit different. And that was kind of our launch to the audience. Here's what we've already done the shows. They're already in the bag. They're already recorded. You'll see that with a lot of celebrity podcasts as well. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus. A lot of these celebrity podcasts, they've recorded all their episodes before it even launches. Because again, you're going to see where is it going to take us? What's going to be the tone? What's going to be the overall vibe? Some of those things you can map out on paper, as I said. Some of it evolves with time. So unless you have that full package of that concept, the idea, here are some demos, here's a couple clips, this is the vibe, this is how it's going to go, there you go. And I learned that too with magazine publishing. Well, I was an editor for many years. You can't come out with a magazine weekly and 100 pages every week and then cut it down to every 2 weeks and 60 pages and then once a month, and you always have to get bigger. You can't start downsizing right away. Because again, that shows that you're not, that you were too ambitious at the beginning to launch it. And so if you can't map out those first few episodes of what it's going to be, then I think that and again, I have people who are either radio colleagues or who just know that I do broadcasting and have for a long time that will kind of bounce ideas off of me. And I'll say the same thing. They will have designed the logo for the show. They've bought the domain names. There's one person I know who buys every .com, .ca, .fm, .radio, .biz, .this, .that. And I'm sitting here going, but you don't even really have the concept of the show yet. So you went and secured every goddamn fucking domain because you thought the name was great. Well, do you know what ended up happening? Here's the thing. Do you know what ended up happening? Was through the course of conversation, the overall kind of content of his show changed. And thus, the name of the show changed. So he hadn't even sat down at the microphone and started recording, but he'd already designed a logo and done a name and all these things. So again, I sit there going, this is why you flesh it out, flesh or flesh it out, and you come up with the idea, you come up with the concept, and you lock that in. Logo design, that is not the first thing that you're doing. That is not. And again, back to the whole e-commerce thing. I had a friend, like, she was going to do the fashion thing. She had designed the logo and the name and all that, and bought and got all she locked in Facebook pages and whatever. And then when she started to source the products, when she started to actually then look at the products, she was like, yeah, actually, you know what? The name doesn't kind of really match the products that I'm finding now. So there you go. So it's cart before the horse is what I'll say. You just wasted however many dollars it is for 17 domain names for nothing, because you've now just changed the concept. When we launched Happy Bulge Swim Company, this is over 5 years ago now, we changed the concept entirely. Initially, we were going to be selling one erotic novel that we had published years ago. We were going to sell one book at Pride festivals. We were going to have an 8-foot table with like stacks and stacks of copies of this book. We called it Gayrotica.men. Gayrotica.men was the name of it. We had bookmarks made, we had a banner, and then all of a sudden, we sit down and kind of have this discussion and talk about, other things and go, let's not do this. Let's change it. Let's make it something else. Let's do something a little bit different. So we waste all that money ordering bookmarks and signage and whatever before we finalized and said, this is what our Pride booth is going to be. And it's a total 180. Now it's clothing. It's swimwear, underwear, Pride shirts, and, accessories versus one erotic novel that we were going to have on a table. So, unless you start ordering the product, and then the name Happy Bulge Swim Company kind of just came because we started to look at these different products and we were like, this is what we're going to sell. This is what we're going to have. This is what we're going with. Now the name is secondary. Because if you start to design your product, in this case a podcast, if you're designing it around the name itself, you're kind of locked in. Record a few segments, record a few episodes, map it out on paper, figure out what the tone and vibe is. Sometimes the name will come from that. Trust me. I've done it with radio shows, podcasts, books, e-commerce stores. I've done it. I might not have expertise in the type of podcast if it's a certain niche market or audience. But it's still production. It's still the same thing. Now I'm going to talk about editing and just production quality on the Scribble right after this.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here, back on the Scribble, episode 500. Woo, woo. I'm having a celebration for myself. I don't know. Let's talk production quality and production value. The common theme nowadays, especially for podcasts. Remember, podcasts used to just be audio. You would just listen to them. That's all you were doing, is that you were listening. So many people are incorporating video a video element to their podcast. There's this visual that I'm going to see people sitting and talking into these foot-long penis microphones. Now, I've hosted podcasts for other people. I've been tapped to host, a corporate podcast for a company, and I've done it. And it's the same kind of a thing where we want to do a podcast. Great, what is it? And through these discussions and meetings with them, they go and say, okay, well, let's incorporate video. Let's do a video element so that we're seeing the conversation. And I said, what are you gaining from that though? Unless there's something to actually see, unless you're bringing in, when Howard Stern had his, I think it was CBS. He had a late night show on Saturday nights where you would see his radio show. So the guests would come in, or the strippers, or the sideshow freaks, or whatever he was doing. Well, there was something to see. So listening to that wouldn't have been fun because you're missing what's happening in the room with all of them. But for a podcast, if it's I don't understand why people get these there's a set. There's these big chairs and the microphone stands and the glitter microphones and the logo in the background and all these things. Unless you're showing me something, I have no a podcast is something I'm going to listen to while I'm walking my dogs, while I'm on an airplane, while I'm whatever, cleaning the house. I don't clean the house, but we have staff. But you get what I'm saying. So, and why I'm telling you not to incorporate it is because if you're not up to speed with video editing and you don't have a polished presentation about your, if you don't have a polished delivery in what you're saying, I can do this entire 30-minute podcast. We don't edit a damn thing. We don't have jump cuts. As soon as you incorporate a visual element to your podcast, and we're seeing you talking, the most obnoxious thing, and I see people post this on Instagram all the time, they preview their latest podcast episode or whatever it is. When I see you and there's jump cut edits, and what that is where it's I'll reenact it. You'll only hear me, of course. I'll talk about my day and then how it's not the same every day when I'm doing this kind of thing. Because you're taking either different versions of this, what you're saying, or you're cutting out things and you're piecing it together. So even your voice doesn't sound, and when you're seeing it visually, there was that episode of The Simpsons where Homer was he was not ambushed, whatever. And you see the clock in the background and he was accused of sexual harassment, I believe it was. And he's talking about that sweet can. And you see the clock, the time on the clock is changing because obviously the video has been edited, right? To make it look like he's doing this. And when I see jump cut and I'm just sitting there going, first of all, if you can't form a sentence or you can't go 3 sentences without jump cut edits, where all of a sudden we see you kind of moving, it's then you shouldn't be doing a podcast. I feel there's, at the bare minimum, you need to be able to formulate a thought. You need to be able to talk for 1 minute straight without having to, hold on, let me do that again. Okay. Oh shoot. Okay. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to do it. You need to have a polished presentation because what you're going to find is you're going to spend so much time in editing. You're going to hate doing it. The excitement is going to be there for those first few episodes because, again, it's new, it's fun. You're going to hate doing it. Because what's going to happen, and this is, when I was hosting my Top 40 show, I would listen to every segment that I recorded. Even though I just taped it 2 seconds ago. I literally just hit stop. I would go back and I would listen to it. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to do it. No, I treat it as it's live. There's no takesies, backsies. That's how we do this podcast. It's 30 minutes. If I screw up, if I have the laughing fit, if I drop my pen on the floor like I did it, we're keeping it in. That's the authenticity of a podcast. And there's, like I said, the jump cut edits. So if it's just audio and I'm hearing you and earphones are very close, you're hearing the sound much different than if you're just listening on computer speakers. If I hear the edits, and the way you can hear it is... right? People, you can hear the breaths. I can tell things are cut out. Maybe you just cut out some silence. I don't know, but that's obnoxious to me. You will never hear that on our podcast. It's one straight segment right through. One right through. because I know how to talk. I've been doing it I've been talking for 40 some years, but I've been speaking in a broadcast format for 20 years. I'm not saying you got to be perfect right from the jump. I'm not saying that at all. But just because you have a microphone and you want to do a podcast, just as I say, just because every couple who has a smartphone and the video capability, you're not all a comedy duo. You don't all have to do pranks or stupid dances or whatever. You don't have to like entertain and perform. It's okay to not be a performer. So in a sense, I guess maybe I'm talking some people out of hosting their own podcast, but you have to kind of think about that and go, am I making this a business? What am I doing with it? Is it just for shits and giggles for my friends? Is it to make money? Is it to become famous? Is it to become an influencer? What's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of it? I will tell you right now that the Scribble podcast is not meant to make money. It's not our bread and butter. It's not. We make very little money from it. It's just another product that we put out there to help promote our other businesses that we have and our other platforms that we have. So somebody could go and say to me, well, are you making millions? Are you making six figures on your podcast? No, but here's the thing. I was making six figures doing my syndicated radio show. In 2010, 2011, I was pulling in $250,000 a year as an independent broadcaster slugging out creating his own radio show. Are you having that as a podcaster? Can I give you advice and tell you how to do it? Yes, I can. Just because the FM dial on your radio isn't the cool thing anymore, the fundamentals are still the same. Whether that's soliciting advertising and landing, major national advertisers or getting sponsorships or selling subscriptions, I've been there. So listen, when I'm telling you about this stuff, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Trust me. Okay? We're going to take a break. We're going to wrap up episode 500 of The Scribble right after this.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
And keep it consistent. Okay, that was one thing because, and I've talked about it on the show before, is that from the very beginning we said The Scribble is going to be 30 minutes every week. Why 30 minutes? Because if you do 30 minutes on the treadmill, if you do, if you go and you walk the dog for 30 minutes, or you're doing, maybe it's yoga or whatever you're doing, there's a time to it. You know what to expect. You know how long it's going to be. There's a few celebrity podcasts that I listen to. I appreciate that they're all around like the 45-minute mark to 1 hour, but the last thing that you want is to have a 7-minute episode, a 3-hour episode, hour and 40-minute episode, because there's no consistency there. So from the very beginning when we started the podcast, I said, I'm used to working, this is our 2-hour radio show, I've got a 2-hour block, we've got this, we've got that. Here, 30 minutes for this podcast. What are we doing in those 30 minutes? We're going to have this kind of a segment, these commercials, this sort of promo. This is what it is. We've got consistency. Now, for this episode 500, I'm going to break the rules a little bit and we're going to run a little bit overtime because it's episode 500. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'll take a few extra minutes if I want to. Okay. But, so those are my tips. I hope you follow them. I'm not saying that do this or you won't be successful. Obviously there's people who do things way differently and are very successful. I'm just saying, like, these are things from somebody who has created audio programming and content for, well, literally decades, right? 20 years, radio show, newspaper. I've come up with stuff that was nothing. It was an idea. Radio, you're selling air. You're selling words. You're selling a voice. That's one of the hardest things. Like, it's airtime that on the radio, somebody listens to it, they hear your 30-second commercial, then it's gone. It's not like a magazine that it's sitting on a table still. It's not, a newspaper that you're getting every day and you're going to see that same ad over and over again. That commercial or that story, whatever you say on the radio, is gone. Now, thanks to, social media, YouTube, whatever, it can live on forever, but you get what I'm saying here. So there's just lots to consider when it comes to doing a podcast. Let me just recap again. How often is it going to be? How long will it be? Who's your audience? Can you map out 6 episodes to get your footing and kind of say, hey, this is a strong enough idea. Let's run with that. Think about the name and the logo after the fact. Does it need to be video? Do you have to have the big penis microphone and the big plush chairs and the giant expensive logo behind you? maybe with time, but how well are you at public? How good are you at public speaking? How well do you know how to edit audio and video? Is that even an interest of yours? If it's not, and you know nothing about editing video, and you don't have to worry about fussing with your hair and looking pretty and whatever, and it's going to take you 6 hours to edit the video of a 20-minute podcast, is it worth it? Is it worth your time at the end? So these are all things to think about, and I hope you do consider it. If you are starting a podcast and you'd like to have me on as an expert guest, I'm more than welcome. Shoot me an email. I'd love to have you on. Or I'd love to be on, excuse me. And also, too, if you have questions or ideas, you want to pick my brain about something, I'm here. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com. Live@jbonair.com. Happy 500 episode to me. I will talk to you same time, same place next week on The Scribble. Thank you all so much for listening. 10 years, 500 episodes. That's fucking amazing. See you around, or talk to you around.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,